It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler.
Hey guys, Tyler here. More recently, the YouTube channel The Root has made a video in favor of reparations for African Americans. For those who don't know, The Root is pretty infamous for making clickbait stuff that is pretty racist. I am not joking. They have a freaking article that says that Charles Barkley is a great example of a black white supremacist. Another example of this is an article that says that straight black males are the white people of black people. Articles like these don't make me trust The Root that much, but let's start the video.
Remember this Dave Chappelle skit? It was pretty much what white folks thought black people would do with the reparations check.
But that sketch was not what white people thought if black people got reparations. The whole entire sketch was thought up by Dave Chappelle. Oh my god, we're already a second in and this video really hurts my brain so much.
But what are reparations anyway? And how do they work?
The answer to that is really simple. Reparations are there to compensate the victims of a tragedy or an event from the government. Personally, I'm not against this idea of paying back people or a group of people who are direct victims of a tragedy. The main reason I have problems with reparations for black people is that black people today have not experienced slavery. It would have made much more sense to pay black people reparations in the past when they were still slaves. However, nobody today have experienced slavery. We still have people who are still alive who experienced segregation, but as far as slavery is concerned, there's like 0 people alive for slavery. Not to mention, this idea of reparations rely on the idea that all white people are guilty for slavery, which is not true. There are white people who have family who just came here and they're not responsible for slavery. Neither are the white people whose family's ancestors, again, have not took part in slavery. Not to mention, black people in the past also sold black people. Does that mean that we black people also need to pay reparations for us?
Reparations for slavery isn't all about getting that bag. It's part of it, for sure, but it's also about acknowledging and reconciling a wrong.
But that's the thing. The majority of people in America think that slavery is wrong. We have an entire Black History Month to say that slavery is wrong. We have entire classes teaching about the evils of slavery. We have entire museums about this. Please, how do we not recognize that slavery was wrong?
In the United States, that wrong is what some would call this country's original sin, slavery. Something that we have never actually confronted.
It is so funny that you're talking about original sin right now because your argument is essentially exactly like the Christians. I am God and I command you, Adam and Eve, to not eat that apple from that tree. Otherwise, humanity is sinful and doomed. And of course, the social justice activists will say, oh my god! White people in the past owned slaves! That means the white people of today are as guilty as the white people in the past, and so the white people of today need to pay their sins through money! You see, your argument is no freaking different than the Christians in the past. You guys are literally the new religious right. Also, I love how you said that America never confronted slavery when in fact we had an entire civil war against slavery to confront slavery. Thousands of men died to stop slavery. How can you say we never confronted it? How can you say this?
And in 2019, the chatter around reparations is louder than ever. Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee sponsored a bill to study reparations proposals in January, and reparations have become a hot ticket issue for 2020 presidential candidates.
I'll tell you this much, guys. If the Democrats continue to run this platform of late-term abortion and reparations, I'm sorry, you guys probably will not have a chance against Donald Trump again. If you really want to convince people to vote for you in 2020, guess what? Stop arguing for late-term abortion, stop arguing for reparations, and just focus on weed. That's it. By talking about this kind of nonsense, you guys are looking like complete clowns and digging your holes before the elections even happen.
While there are debates about what reparations look like, one scholar suggests starting with acknowledging the atrocity, aka slavery.
The material consequences of a history of state-sanctioned and state-complicit violence, extraction, exploitation, and fraud, as well as policies committed against Black people, manifest in terms of the racial wealth gap in an obvious way. The fact that Blacks make up 12 to 14% of the population, but own probably something in the order of less than 4% of the country's wealth, or maybe 3%, I think that's indicative of a material consequence.
This argument of a racial wealth gap is pretty much the same kind of stuff of the gender pay gap. The main reason why Black people earn less than any other group in America ultimately comes down to personal choices. In America, of course, we have three classes of people. We have the rich, we have the poor, and we have the middle class. And obviously, each person have different circumstances depending on the family. So if a Black person, for example, was born in a small family, a poor family, they grew up poor. If they were born in a middle class family, they grew up middle class. And if they grew up in a rich family, they grew up rich. However, through hard work and determination, of course, many Black people are successful in America. There's of course people such as Oprah, Barack Obama, as well as that Supreme Court judge in the Supreme Court. There's also people like Will Smith, Jada Pinkett Smith, and these other Black celebrities that we hear about every day. You cannot really ultimately fix this wealth gap because ultimately in the end it comes down to personal choices, and every single Black person wants different careers or different lifestyles.
In 1974, the government reached a $10 million out-of-court settlement to compensate the victims of the Tuskegee experiment and their heirs. In 1988, the U.S. agreed to pay Japanese internees a total of $1.2 billion. In 1994, the state of Florida greenlit a reparations package totaling $2.1 million for the victims of the 1923 Rosewood Massacre. Outside of the U.S. remains quite possibly one of the most notable cases of reparations. As of 2012, Germany has paid out $89 billion to Holocaust survivors.
All of those reparations have one thing in common. The thing in common is that the people who got paid for those reparations are still alive. Meanwhile, there's not a single Black person alive from slavery. There are only Black people who are alive from the civil rights movement. And so basically, nobody is alive to get reparations for slavery.
Other presidential hopefuls like Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, and Julian Castro have also been open to the idea of reparations. Others, like Cory Booker, haven't directly endorsed reparations, but support programs like baby bonds that would help the lowest income families regardless of race.
Could baby bonds be considered a sort of reparations? Absolutely not.
I don't understand how baby bonds or welfare or food stamps is not a form of reparations. Basically, we spend all of this money from the government to help people out, and guess what? It does in fact help people out in terms of food and housing. Are there some people that do abuse this kind of stuff? Yes, of course. However, I think having a safety net is pretty good to have people who are in need. However, I don't think that people need money grants to help them out. Because ultimately I believe that people should be out there with strong determination and hard work. I personally believe that black people should not see each other as victims. I believe that black people should have a strong family unit to help people out, and of course make sure that stuff actually happens and not just depend on money from the government. I believe that through hard work and determination, obviously, people are better off that way. I don't want to get free money from slavery because ultimately I was not part of slavery. I want to get money from my own personal hard work.
Some people critique reparations by saying, oh, if you gave black people a check, they'll just go out and blow it and spend it on, some people literally say Cadillacs in a stereotypical way.
Can you please tell me just who the hell actually said that? Please tell me a single person who actually said that.
Now, there's some humor in that, but frankly, if black people want to buy Cadillacs, they should be entitled to buy Cadillacs.
You don't really think that middle-class black people and rich black people can't buy Cadillacs without reparations? Are you serious?
Whether reparations take the form of individual payments to victims or social programs targeted towards afflicted groups or property, either way, it's about equity.
But reparations is not equity. It's not equity in the slightest. As a matter of fact, you're punishing entire people because basically you think that slavery was wrong, and so therefore the people who obviously not have nothing to do with slavery need to pay money for black people. Like, how is this fair? How is this just? In conclusion, I am in favor of reparations for people who are direct victims. However, black people today have not experienced slavery in America. By this video's logic, every last person on earth need to pay reparations, mostly because every single human throughout history has some sort of wrongdoing. Look, are there some problems in the black community? Obviously. Are there problems with any kind of community? Obviously. However, we need to stop acting like victims and actually, work hard to become successful and not ask for money and handouts.
It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. He's your only black friend, so he's your best black friend. I wouldn't trade him for another black friend, because black friends are rare, as you should be aware. He smiles like Richard Pryor, so just sit and stare. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler. It's everyone's friend, it's Tyler.